actually, I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned. Yes.
Okay, well, that's a little bit silly. You have to acknowledge that, right?
No. And the majority of divorces nowadays, it's just, when the girl just feels like leaving.
That's not true.
So, and well,
It's just not true.
I've talked to hundreds of women
That's
on my
not.
show.
That's just
So,
that doesn't prove anything.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of the Celebrity John Dima Mario Brothers Music. So, guys, as it appears, Just Pearly Things is back out here on the scene, making content that wants to make me rich. Can I get a ching sound effect? And hey, I'm all for it. I'm hella broke, and I need a new hairline pretty soon. And I'm creeping up on age 43. So whatever I can get help with, I'm going to do it. Rewind, Dima. Yeah, so Just Pearly Things is on H3 Podcast. H3 Podcast is it's a huge platform. These guys kind of have a problem with the red pill from what I know. They even have a little back and forth going on with Abba and Preach. I'm not very familiar with their show, although I do know there is a guy that's pretty popular by the name of Ethan, and he's the one that's going to be interviewing her. And for all intents and purposes, I want to kind of basically play an excerpt that's going to deal with divorce and alimony and things like that. Now, I'm just going to be honest. I'm a person that understands that men are suffering in divorce, and that's unfair to men. I would share an opinion very similar to Just Pearly Things on that, just like most people in the manosphere would stand on that, right? But now the extremes that she discusses and the anecdotal evidence she's going to present here, like I've talked to these 200 people or these 300 people, and she's going to be stating a lot of facts, trying to catch years or quote years, but she's completely getting demolished by this guy. And what he's saying is making more sense than what she's saying completely, which is why they're bringing her onto the platform, because she's just not that bright. Okay. I want to play this excerpt, guys. It is cringe, but let's go ahead and come back.
So how do you push a policy that promotes family? Like, in what way can you force a family to stay together or encourage it in a sense?
Well, I think you first have to get rid of incentives that incentivize like women to leave families. So, for example, child support, alimony. I'm not really a fan of those.
Child support. So if there's a divorce, let's say
actually, I think we should ban divorce too. Yeah, I think that should be banned. Yes.
Okay, well, that's a little bit silly. You have to acknowledge that, right?
No.
So banning divorce means that when you decide to get married, you are not allowed by the government to leave your significant other in any situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just think that if you want to leave, you just shouldn't get married. So that's just my opinion.
Right, but like in the real world, that kind of simplistic.
And there's like exceptions to this, but I would just say in general, for most cases, we could talk about exceptions, but like the rule.
Well, the exceptions are the important part, because I've heard you say that a lot when you're talking about things. You say, oh, you want to talk about exceptions, but the exceptions is the important part, because those are the people that are going to be affected. I mean, exceptions are going to be a large part of divorces, as you say. I mean, you're talking about 25% maybe or more. Because if you're saying you're not allowed to get divorced, so we're talking about like, what if the relationship is physically abusive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if it's physically, this is the problem though. All right, if it's one-sided physically abusive, okay, fine, divorce. We can allow divorce for those exceptions, but
okay.
Like I've even talked to people that work at like abuse centers, and they say that the majority of abuse is mutual. So it's not just one side's hitting the other; it's like mutual. So
surely that's not every time.
I think. Yeah, I know.
But it's not healthier either.
Mm-hmm. I just think that the goal should be to keep families together and that the goal should be to work through it.
I think most people agree with that, right? Because I think we all can look at the stats and say family is important, right? Family is important. Nuclear families is important to like the health of children growing up in general. I think we can all say that. But when you say something like divorce should be illegal,
Yeah.
we got to kind of suss that out because that's a pretty extreme claim. For example, in 2014, family violence was the cause of 25% of divorces. So I don't think it's fair to characterize that as some kind of like super fringe example of why people get divorced.
Well, but you also have to look if there's incentive structures in place where there's a lot of false accusations in family court. And a lot of people don't know this, that family court is actually it's not based off of evidence. It's based off a balance of probabilities. And there are incentive programs that you get, like in the UK, you get a free lawyer if you accuse your husband of abuse. And it's less than 10% of cases are actually like followed through with the police.
Sorry, I don't want to move on quite yet. I want to stick on the topic of not allowing people to divorce. So you're saying that you do want to allow people to divorce, then you don't really believe that.
No, I would say ban divorce.
Okay, because you just said you would allow an exception in the case of abuse.
I said one-sided abuse exception, sure.
Okay, so how do you prove the one? So then you don't believe in forced divorce, or ban divorce.
Fine.
Yeah.
Ban divorce except for one-sided abuse.
Okay,
sure.
Except for one-sided abuse. And is there going to be a system to kind of how do you prove that the woman or man?
Well,
was on the,
I think you have to press charges in criminal court, not family court.
So only if your significant other is tried criminally are you allowed to leave the relationship. Yes. Tried and found guilty criminally.
Yes. Otherwise, just stick out of, which is fine if you don't, want to be with someone forever. But I just say stay out of marriage, because when you marriage is supposed to be, for better or for worse, and sickness and in health, and for richer or for poorer. It's not supposed to be, when I feel like leaving. And the majority of divorces nowadays, it's just, when the girl just feels like leaving.
That's not true.
So well,
it's just not true.
I've talked to hundreds of women.
That doesn't prove anything.
And even if you look at when no fault divorce was initiated in the 1970, I think it was initiated. I mean, one of the number one reasons was financial differences and irreconcilable.
Sorry, I
can't talk.
So
but yeah, I just think for the people that don't believe in real marriage, because what is marriage if you can get divorced over damn near anything? It's not marriage anymore. It's something else.
So I'm gonna deal with the whole divorce thing. Women should never get divorced. Okay? Women should never get divorced. That was her main thing that she was saying. It's no fault divorce and all of this. Now, she's saying that, okay, then you got her to be like, well, what about people who are being abused in relationships? Well, men are also abused in relationships, something like that, right? Then it came to, this whole position about as far as men being in relationships and, if the woman is abused, then that man she should be forced to stay married to this man unless he is criminally prosecuted. Now, I'm sorry, but that sounds silly, right? What if he is not found guilty and he can still, abuse the woman or beat on the woman? Now, I do understand that there is false accusations against men. I get that. But she was so to the extreme in which she couldn't defend her positions. And this is why the guy was talking about, hey, listen, that sounds very silly. And you're not talking in practicality. And that was a problem with her argument. And again, it was just a whole, you can see all the time she was trying to justify it by, I know this person, I've talked to this person, and then I've heard this and I've heard that. And pretty much it was a whole bunch of fact stating. And you really can understand that she wasn't able to critically assess what he was talking about, nor was she able to respond. And that is the red pill conditioning that she learned just to grift and make money. And there is no gray area. Let me just tell you this in life, and this is what I'll learn too. I'm a pretty conservative guy, but God damn it, there is a lot of gray area in life. You know, it's just not white and black. There is a lot of gray, and we live in a perpetual state of living in the gray and having to adjust and having to compromise and having to say, well, you know, it's this and that, but you know what, this is the decision we want to compromise on, and this is what needs to be mitigated in X, Y, and Z. And Just Pearly Things is talking like that because she's 26 and you don't have any real life experience. You've never been married. You don't know what it's like, and you're just talking in extremes to guys who've never also been married or never had relationships or never had serious things. So you can't really qualify what you're talking about. And again, this is another way to grift. And I noticed that, like, in the red pill, as I've kind of stepped back from this community, there's so many people that are just charismatic and they understand the business of YouTube and they understand, you know, how to make money. They understand how to make good videos. But the advice that, you know, I see people giving in the red pill, man, the last, like, you know, 3 to 4 years, once it became saturated, is this guy saying things that don't make any sense. It would be different if you're going to talk about, you know, well, I agree with that. I don't agree with that opinion because I don't agree with it. But when you're just talking about something that you haven't experienced, that is completely unacceptable. But guys, what do you think? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. Put your follow, subscribe to the bell. We're out.